Politically, that means advantage Russia, all of what you just saw. But financially, the costs are mounting. The war is steadily draining the Russian treasury. The sanctions have cut Russia off from global markets. Putin desperately needs help, and he's hoping that India will step up. Earlier today, Russia's Deputy Prime Minister reached out and he spoke to Petroleum Minister of India, Hardeep Singh Puri. What did they discuss? Broadly speaking, energy. Russia is hoping for two things from India. Number one, more investments in their oil and gas sector. And number two, more purchase of Russian oil. Simply put, sanctions relief. That's what Moscow wants. You see, Russia needs investments to develop their oil fields. Until now, Western companies obliged. The likes of Shell and BP, they pumped millions of dollars into Russia. Now that tap is shut. America has stopped buying Russian oil. Their companies have pulled out from Russia. So Moscow is looking for other options. And this is a big headache for India. On the one hand, there is big money to be made, lucrative investments, cheaper oil. At the same time, there is inherent risk. What if India is caught in the crossfire? We are already seeing indications of this. India's Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, or ONGC, has stakes in Russia's Sakhalin-1 project. Around 20% stake. ONGC sells its share of the oil through tenders. This time, 11 parties had shown interest. But when the tender closed on Thursday, there were zero bids. Zero. Reports say all 11 parties sent their regrets. Do you see the issue here? Russian oil is becoming a liability. You can still buy it, but it's a huge risk. Coming back to ONGC, what can they do with this oil? One solution is to ship it to India. ONGC owns refineries which can process the oil. But in the long run, is this operation lucrative? India's state-owned firms have invested $16 billion in Russia's energy sector. But that was before the war. Now the plans have changed. Reports say Indian companies are wary of investments in the near term. They want to see how this plays out. Same with purchases. India is the third largest oil importer in the world. Around 85% of India's oil companies comes from abroad. 85% of India's oil, it's imported. So does 55% of natural gas. So higher crude prices will hurt India's checkbook. And this is where Moscow wants to capitalize. All that Russian oil has to go somewhere. So why not India? That's their calculation. According to reports, Russia is sweetening the deal, offering all kinds of incentives and discounts. Is India planning to take up the offer? Again, it's a big headache. Oil prices are touching a 13-year high. Discounts would certainly help. But how do you balance the risk? I'll explain. For instance, these are multi-million-dollar investments we are talking about, multi-million-dollar shipments. Do they get insurance cover? And if they do, how expensive is that insurance cover in times of a war? This concern was also raised by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The arithmetic is quite simple. If the insurance is too costly, the discounts become pointless. So India has a choice to make. Stick with Russian oil or make a pivot to alternative sources. And these numbers will influence India's decision. Look at this. 17% of India's oil comes from Iraq. 16% from Saudi Arabia, 14% from the UAE, 9% from the United States. Where is Russia on this list? Less than 3%. And those are the financial concerns. But this choice is not just about the numbers. It's also about the politics. So far, India has refused to pick sides in this war, and that decision is riling up American lawmakers. There is a clear division emerging in Washington, D.C. One camp cannot accept India's choice. They want New Delhi to condemn Russia's invasion. The other camp is more measured. They understand India's long-standing relationship with Russia. The question is, which camp is more powerful? So far, the Biden administration has taken a soft stance. Let me quote what a Pentagon official said. We recognize that India has a complicated history and relationship with Russia. The good news is that they are in a multi-year process of diversifying their arms purchases away from Russia. That's going to take some time, but they're clearly committed to doing that. Now we have a question. Is Joe Biden accepting India's ties with Russia? Or is he giving India time to decouple with Russia? And those two are not the same. India's relationship with Moscow did not begin with Vladimir Putin. So any strategic rethink will be based on India's national interest. And this principle applies to both Russia and the US. Unlike China, India has not endorsed Putin's invasion. It is not lining up to buy Russian oil. At the same time, India has stayed away from NATO's bloc politics. You can call it neutrality or non-alignment 2.0, but the fact is India's decision is based on her self-interest. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.